Fortune murdered it.
All right, vocal mixing 101. I'm going to be doing some commentary on this, so I didn't record this part live. So right now we're just going to listen to the track raw so you guys know what we're working with.
Rising from the underground, like we back from the dead. We keep it grimy over here, we don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant, we don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public, I don't need a mask on my friends. I got a vendetta, fuck your agenda, you better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, then why in the hell would I wanna connect? Talk about cause and affecting, you gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value if you wanna get the boss's respect.
Alright, so to start off, you got to make sure you have your vocals routed to the proper mixer tracks. So I'm going to route my first verse to track 22. I'm going to route my dubs to track 23. I'm going to route my libs to track 24. Once you do that, go back to your mixer. As you can see, they're all routed right.
Like we back from the dead, we keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public, I don't need a
Alright, so right now, I'm naming and coloring the first verse so I know what I'm working with. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to equalize our verse. So go into your slot 1 and look for parametric EQ2. Comes with Fruity Loops, you don't got to buy it. Usually I would start with a preset, but just for the sake of showing you guys how I do this, I'm going to go through it from the beginning. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting my low end to a high pass filter, and I'm putting it at steep 8 so we have a nice steep curve to work with. Point of doing this is to get rid of low, muddy, crappy frequencies that are in the low end. So everything to the left of our brightest pink signal is all just garbage. We don't need it, so we're going to cut it all out. Now right now what we're doing is notch filtering. We're going to be sweeping the frequencies for the worst frequencies in the mix, and then we're going to be decreasing them by about -2 or 3 decibels. I don't recommend going over 3 decibels because at that point you're taking out too much and you're making big changes. Everything that we're trying to do is subtle. We're not trying to do any dramatic things to our verse. We're just trying to do really subtle things to clean it up, and at the end of it, it all adds up and you have a clean product. There's a really bad one.
Rising from the underground.
See, that's what I mean by bad frequencies.
We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public, I don't need a mask on my friends. I got a vendetta, fuck your agenda, you better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, then why in the hell would I wanna connect? Talk about cause and affecting, you gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value if you wanna get the boss's respect. You gotta pay your dues and do what you feel, but if you skip a step and copy everyone you do to lose your appeal, don't go run and knock your mouth if you're new to the field. This ain't no video game, they finna shoot you for real. What would you do for a deal?
Alright, now we're doing the opposite with our high end. We're putting a steep 8 setting on it, and we're putting a low pass this time.
Rising from the underground, like we back from the dead. We keep it grimy over here, we don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant, we don't have to pretend.
Right. Next we're going to be getting another parametric EQ2, and we're going to be doing the same thing, except we're going to be notch filtering out the high end.
Talk about cause and affecting, you gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value if you wanna get the boss's respect. You gotta pay your dues and do what you feel, but if you skip a step and copy everyone you do to lose your appeal, don't go run and knock your mouth if you're new to the field. This ain't no video game, they finna shoot you for real. What would you do for a deal? Would you be waging your soul? Would you be willing to give up all of your creative control? Acting like a fucking plant, slowly waiting to grow. If that's the situation, you'll never be able to blow. Rising from the underground, like we back from the dead. We keep it grimy over here, we don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant, we don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public, I don't need a mask on my friends. I got a vendetta, fuck your agenda, you better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, then why in the hell would I wanna connect? Talk about cause and affecting, you gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value if you wanna get the boss's respect. You gotta pay your dues and do what you feel, but if you skip a step and copy everyone you do to lose your appeal.
Alright, next we're going to be putting a compressor on here. Alright, so the whole point of a compressor, in the most simplistic way I can put it, is we're taking the loudest parts and the quietest parts, and we're making them so they're equal volume in the mix. Alright, so we're going to set our threshold to about halfway through the waveform to where the lowest peaks are hitting, Then we're gonna set our ratio to 2 to 1, which is 201. We're gonna set our attack fast and our release medium fast. Reason for that is because rap vocals, you're better off compressing them a little faster, since, you know, you're rapping so fast, you're hitting your notes more of a staccato type speed. So that's why we do that. And to set the gain knob, because what we're doing is right now we're taking the highest peaks and we're bringing them down to meet the low peaks. All right, so which means we're losing a little bit of volume from that. So right now we're gonna figure out where our volume was at before we compressed it, and we'll be able to check that on the master.
Like we back from the dead.
So that first peak was about -9, -8.42. You can see in the top left corner. So then what we're going to do is turn our compressor on, and we're going to see how much quieter it got.
Rising from the underground. Like
Lost about a decibel and a half, about probably around 1.7 decibels. We'll start with 1.2 and see where that brings us. All right, then we're gonna check our master meter and see where we're hitting.
Rising from the underground.
See, we're almost back to where it was before we compressed it. So let's just bring it up a couple more to maybe 1.7 decibels louder. See if that brings us back to our starting point.
Rising from the underground.
All right, yeah,
like
that's
we
pretty
back
good.
from the dead. We keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public. I don't need a mask of my friends. I got the vendetta. Fuck your agenda.
All right, next we're gonna add another parametric EQ. This time we're gonna be taking out big chunks,
Rising from
and
the
we're gonna be
underground.
boosting a little
like
bit
we back
in
from
the
the
high
dead.
end.
We keep it grimy over
So
here.
to do
We don't
this,
keep track
you're
of the
gonna raise
trends,
it,
cause we ain't trying to
raise
be
the band,
relevant. We don't have to
look for
pretend.
the
I'll beat your ass in
most
public. I don't need a
boxiest,
mask of my
nasaliest,
friends. I got the vendetta.
harshest
Fuck your
frequency you
agenda.
can
You better be
find.
coming correct.
Take
If
it
you don't
down
plan
by
on being at
about
the table,
2
then why in the hell
decibels,
would I wanna
maybe
connect?
1
Talk
decibel.
about cause and affecting. You gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value if
the
you
same
want to
thing
get
for
the
your
boss's
mids.
respect. You gotta pay your dues and do what you feel. But if you skip a step and copy everyone, you
Right
do
there.
to lose your appeal. Don't go running off your mouth if you're new to the field. This ain't no video game. They finna shoot you for real. What would you do for a deal? Would you be waging your soul? Would you be willing to give up all of your creative control? Acting like a fucking plant, slowly waiting to grow. If that's the situation, you'll never be.
Now with my voice specifically, I have a higher voice, so I have a specific frequency that always kind of hurts your ears. So I always make sure I go in there, find that
Rising from
frequency,
the
pull it down.
underground. Like we back from the dead. We keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public. I don't need a mask of my friends. I got the vendetta. Fuck your agenda. You better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, then why in the hell would I wanna connect? Talk about cause and affecting. You gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value if you want to get the boss's respect. You gotta
Alright,
pay
and then we're gonna bring up our high end a little bit just to get a little more air in the recording. Right here, I would never recommend going over 3 decibels. That's just overkill at that point. I usually recommend between 1 and 2 decibels. Next, we're going to be adding our de-esser. I'll be using Maximus, which isn't necessarily stock, but it comes with the signature edition, maybe the producer edition too. And they have a built-in de-esser in here. I don't typically use this one. I use sibilance, but this one isn't bad. So we're gonna solo out our mids so we can hear what we're working with. We're gonna slide in our bands, kind of locate and isolate that sibilance, that, you know, high S hissy sound. We're gonna bring it down by dragging this about 2 decibels, maybe 1.5. And then we're gonna bring this down just 1 notch, and that should be good.
Like we back from the dead, we keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public. I don't need a mask for my friends. I got the vendetta. Fuck your agenda. You better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, then why in the hell would I wanna connect? Talk about cause and affecting. You gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value if you want to get the boss's respect.
I'm actually gonna go back and tweak some of this a little bit. Throughout the process, I go back and I tweak certain things as I go.
This ain't no video game. They finna shoot you for real. What would you do for a deal? Would you be waging your soul? Would you be willing to give up all of your creative control? Acting like a fucking plant, slowly waiting to grow. If that's the situation, you'll never be able to blow.
I'm actually going to bring my beat bus down. All my tracks for my beat are routed to this specific track labeled beat bus, so that way I can control the whole beat as if it was one file. Making sure that my beat is around -6, -9 to -6 decibels. That should give you plenty of headroom so that you're not going over 0. Remember, we never want to go over 0. If we're going over 0 dB, we're peaking and we're getting distorted sounds and we're getting a terrible recording. Remember, mix low, mix quiet, and when it gets mastered, it'll be all brought back up and it'll be loud again. So don't worry about maintaining loudness while you're mixing. So right here, we're copying and pasting our mix from the verse 1 onto our dubs, and then we're just going to make slight adjustments. The main one being is we're going to be taking out some of our low end on the mix so that it doesn't collide with the main verse. Otherwise you're going to get a muddy sound and it's going to be hard for people to hear what you're saying.
Rising from the underground.
And this is all just trial and tribulation, just listening to it over and over and making sure that it's clean and the frequencies aren't colliding with each other.
You gotta pay your dues and do what you feel. Lose your appeal.
I'm also going to turn the ratio on the compressor to 4:1 so that it's bringing those peaks down even more. Making sure our dubs are a lot more level than the verse, a lot less dynamic range. Just for that sake, everything will sound more even. Nothing will jump out at you in a negative way. Also setting my threshold a little bit lower to help pull those peaks down.
Rising from the underground, like we back from the dead. We keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public. I don't need a mask on my friends. I got a vendetta, fuck your agenda. You better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, then why in the hell would I wanna connect? Talk about cause and effecting. You gotta work hard for that check.
Still making sure that I got this low end mixed properly. I'm gonna bring up the high end again. Might have made a mistake by cutting that. The key thing with your dubs is that you want them to be felt but not heard. Alright? If you can hear your dubs in the final product, that's usually a problem. You'll see what I mean. By the end of this, you won't even be able to hear my dubs, but you'll definitely be able to feel the energy from them while you listen to it. So, doing the same thing here. I am copying and pasting my mixer track settings from my dubs onto my ad-libs. And again, I'm just gonna make some slight adjustments to the low end to make sure that that's not colliding. Though with the ad-libs, you really don't have to worry about muddiness quite as much because they're a lot more scarce, you know, one hits in between vocal takes. So you can kind of play around with your ad-libs a little bit. That doesn't sound too bad. And then I'm gonna pan it about between between 12 and 18% to the right. So my dubs are gonna go to the left, and then my ad-libs are gonna go to the right. And that varies between the track. You know, sometimes it'll be the opposite. Sometimes my dubs will go, 12% right, and my ad-libs will go like 15 or 12% left, whatever it is. It's different for every track. All right, here is the fun part. This is where I go between every take and I cut out all the garbage, all that shit that you don't need. So this is a really tedious step, and I know a lot of rappers neglect to do this. They'll go in with a denoiser and try to denoise their track. I personally hate doing that because I feel like it takes out a lot of the life from the vocal and it just ruins the quality of it. I find this to be a lot better results, to say that. So I'm actually going to speed up through this. It's nothing special, just literally cutting out the silences between the tracks. All right, so at this point, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it on the main verse. We're actually going to go between the ends of verse or ends of bars, and we're going to cut out silences, breaths, and little pops.
I don't need a mask on my friends.
And also keep in mind, there might be certain clicks and pops in your verse that are on the word. Some of them can't be removed no matter what you do. A lot of times, though, you can get them out of there if you zoom in close enough and cut close enough.
To fuck your agenda, you better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none to the table, then why in the hell would I want to connect? Talk about cause and effect, and you gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value. To fuck your agenda, correct. If you don't plan to bring none to the table, then why in the hell would I want to connect? Talk about cause and effect, and you gotta work hard for that check. What I want to connect. Talk about cause and effect, and you gotta work hard for that check. Show what I want to connect. Talk about cause and effect, and you
heard a click right there. I'm gonna clean that up in just a second so you guys can see what I'm talking about.
What I want to connect. Talk about cause and effect, and you gotta work hard for that check. Show
right in the gotta work hard for that check. You hear that click? There's one after it, and there's one in the middle.
Talk about cause and effect. You gotta work hard for that check. Show them your that check.
A little click right there, a little speck. Pull that shit out.
That check. Show them your value. Work hard for that check. Show them your value. If
gotta get this one.
Work hard for that check. Show them your value. If you want to get the boss's respect, you
Right,
gotta pay your dues and do what you feel.
It's a little tedious. It takes a while. All right, so now at this point, we're going to turn our dubs back on, and we're going to go through the whole track, and we're going to line it up. We're going to cut up the dubs if we need to, and we're going to make sure every syllable is lined up perfectly so that there's no echoes on it. So right there, you can hear that there's a slight delay on the ground.
Rising from the underground. Rising from the underground. Like
Don't be afraid to really cut everything up and move it around. Honestly, once it's all said and done, your dubs are going to be so quiet. Like I said, they're not going to be heard. They're going to be felt.
Rising from the underground. Like we back from the dead, we keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. We ain't trying to be relevant. We ain't trying to be relevant. We ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to. We ain't trying to be relevant, we don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public, I don't need a mask on my friends. I got a vendetta, fuck your agenda. You better be coming correct.
I'm gonna fast forward to this part too.
I don't need a mask on my friends.
All right, now we're going to listen to the track, and we're going to see how everything sounds with the beat muted. We're going to see how the dubs line up.
Underground, like we back from the dead, we keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public, I don't need a mask on my friends. I got a vendetta, fuck your agenda. You better be coming correct.
Right, now we're gonna level our dubs. We're gonna start by bringing them to the quietest point and slowly bringing them up till we can just barely feel them.
You gotta pay your dues and do what you feel. But if you skip a step and copy everyone you do to lose your appeal, don't go running out your mouth if you're new to the field. This ain't no video.
Around there is pretty decent. I might lower them later.
Would you be willing to give up all of your creative control? Acting like a fucking plant, slowly waiting to grow. If that's the situation, you'll never be able to blow.
All right. Next step, we're going to be routing our vocal tracks to a bus. So just click the track you want and then right click on the down arrow for whatever's going to be your bus track and hit route to this track only. Ad-libs, I would say, are optional. I fucked up. Ad-libs can be routed to the bus. Sometimes, I mean, it's all up to you. Sometimes I'll just route my ad-libs directly to the master, and that way I can just throw reverb and delay on my ad-libs separately instead of, adding it to all three together, which is the point of why we're doing this, is so that we can level our verse, the dubs, the verse, and the ad-libs all together, but also so we can add effects that apply to all of them at the same time without having to stack up effects on each individual track. So now that I have them routed and my bus is named, we're going to add Fruity Reverb 2. Usually I have a vocal preset that I work off of and then tweak the settings, but I will be starting from scratch just to show you guys how I do it.
Underground, like we back from the day.
So this knob right here is basically the coloration or the low end of your reverb. At mid point you get a lot colder reverb, a lot less low end. All the way to the left, that's warmer and that's more low end on your reverb. I usually try to find a happy medium. I take down my high end a little bit and my damping a little bit. That way I don't end up with that weird type of reverb that you hear where it's like super washed out. I'm going to bring up my levels just to see how everything is sounding.
Acting like a fucking plant, slowly waiting to grow. If that's the situation, you'll never be able to blow.
For the sake of simplicity, I'm not going super in depth on these. I am just showing you the basic settings. Sometimes I'll mess with the decay and the delay times. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to keep it simple and just show you the basics here. I usually try to make sure my early reflection knob and my wet knob are about the same. Bring them to a midpoint, and that will be the highest that my reverb is going to be. And then I'm going to go over here, right click on the knob and hit create automation clip. Now this is where the magic happens. We're going to be automating our reverb so that it only hits on certain parts of the verse. You don't want your reverb to go throughout the entire verse. It just sounds stale and it gets boring and it just sounds lazy. So we're going to be bringing down both our ends. When it's flat like this, that means that the reverb is not active. Right now the reverb is on mute and the knob is turned all the way down. I'll show you what I mean in a second here.
I never understand.
So let's start by putting in some points. You right click on the line to select where you want your points to be.
Rising from the underground, like we back from the dead, we keep it ground.
All right. So I'm gonna select right there. And you have to be very, very particular with this to make sure your points are on the lines. You're not dragging your points around from line to line. Otherwise you can mess up with the timing of the automation. It's very, very in particular. So
rising from the underground.
So you can see what I mean here. I just brought it up and now it's automatically bringing the volume up and activating the reverb as high as I brought it up.
Rising from the underground, like we back from the dead.
If I'd brought those points all the way to the very top, it would be full reverb. Right now, I only want about 3/4 of my reverb.
From the underground, like we back from the dead. We keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends because we ain't.
So now I'm gonna go through the verse and I'm gonna find the key points the key parts that would need reverb that I think need a little bit of emphasis and to stand out.
Asking my friends.
A little bit of drama, if you will. Remember, it's all about being subtle.
Asking my friends.
And if you can hear the reverb, that's too much. You need to make sure it's subtle, that you can feel it, but you cannot hear it.
You better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, then why in the hell would I want to connect? Dare to fuck your agenda. Dare to fuck your agenda. You better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, then why in the hell would I want to connect? Talk about cause and effecting. You gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value if you want to get the boss's respect. Get the boss's respect.
Boss's respect.
Get the boss's respect.
Gets a little boring at that point, so you
want
to give some
emphasis. You gotta get the boss's respect. You gotta pay your dues and do what you feel. But if you skip a step and copy everyone, you do the loop.
Right here, I already know I'm gonna want it. And as the verse continues, I'm gonna gradually have a little bit more reverb coming in consistently. But for the most part, you want like 90 or 85% of your verse to be dry. You don't want reverb on your whole verse, or even half of your verse is still too much.
Video game, they finna shoot you for real. What would you do for a deal? Would you be waging your soul? Would you be willing to give up all of your...
Alright, And for the last couple bars here, I'm gonna have it hitting at the end of every line.
Would you be waging your soul? Would you be willing to give up all of your creative control? Acting like a fucking plant, slowly waiting to grow. If that's the situation, you'll never be able to blow. Video game, slowly waiting to grow. If that's the situation, you'll never be.
And then for my very last one, I'm gonna have it a little louder, and it's gonna hold out more.
Rising from the underground, like we back from the dead. We keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public. I don't need a mask of my friends. I got the vendetta. Fuck your agenda. You better be coming correct. If you
that
don't
way when it
bring
hits, it catches people's attention, but in a good way.
Affecting. You gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value if you want to get the boss's respect. You gotta
if you do what I just did there,
what you feel.
I drag it off the line, Control Z, and undo what you just did. I did it again. If you don't do that, you're gonna mess up the timing of the whole automation clip. Like I said, it's very particular, and you want to keep everything on the line. If you move it, you gotta undo it.
Your creative control, acting like a fucking plant, slowly waiting to grow. If that's the situation,
no, I actually just fucked up. Right now, I'm recording after the fact, and I guess I didn't realize when I did this that I just moved it off the line. So I actually fucked up the timing on it, and I'm gonna have to go back and fix that after this. So make sure you don't drag it off the line, and if you do, just Control Z, you'll be good. All right. Next step, we're gonna move our reverb down. This is the last step, actually. And we're gonna add some delay. Delay 3 is what I like to use, Fruity Delay 3. No presets. We are going to start by bringing our time from 4 to 3, or 4 to 2, I mean. We're gonna switch it from stereo to ping pong. Our level is how many echoes we're going to end up with. So by bringing it down, you're getting a lot less. The cutoff knob is for the filter. You got low pass, high pass, and band pass. And then your wet knob is how loud the effect is.
You got to pay your dues and do what you feel. But if you skip a step and copy everyone you do to lose your appeal, don't go running off your mouth if you knew feel. This ain't no video game, they finna shoot you for real. What would you do for a deal? Would you be waging your
kind of want to match your delay to the beat. You know, is it warm or is it cold? I'm gonna go with kind of an in-between.
Like we back from the dead, we keep it grimy over here. We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't.
And then I'm gonna take my knob and I'm gonna link to controller. I'm gonna go to where it says none, and I'm going to link it to the reverb automation that we did earlier. So what this is going to do, when you click on the reverb and then hit accept, it's going to link it to that automation. So basically, whenever the reverb is active, the delay is active. And when the reverb's not, the delay is not.
We don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant. We don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public. I don't need a mask of my friends. I got the vendetta. Fuck your agenda. You better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, why in the hell would I want to connect? Talk about cause and effect.
I'm gonna make my delay a little bit louder.
Show them your value if you want to get the boss's respect. You gotta pay your dues and do what you feel. But if you skip a step and copy everyone you do to lose your appeal, don't go running out your mouth if you're new to the field. This ain't no video game, they finna shoot you for real.
So I'm actually gonna take my ad-libs and I'm gonna route them back to the master, like I was talking about earlier. So they're not connected to the bus. I'm gonna take my delay and my reverb from the bus and I'm gonna put those on the ad-libs. That way I can control those separately. On my ad-libs, I don't want them to be dry throughout the track. I want them to have a little bit of delay and a little bit of reverb. Not a lot.
Like we back from the dead.
Just enough.
Had to pretend. Need a mask of my friends. I got the vendetta. Fuck your agenda. You better be coming correct. If you don't plan to bring none of the table, then why in the hell would I want to connect? Talk about cause and effecting. You gotta work hard for that check. Show them your value.
And I'm gonna go over to my beat track, and this is a little tip you can do. Put an equalizer on your beat. Find out where your main vocal low end is sitting. For me, it's about 170 hertz, I would say. Yeah, about 170 hertz or kilohertz, whatever. Then you're gonna go to your EQ and you're gonna cut about 2 decibels. I wouldn't do more than 2. and then you're gonna drag in your corners so it's not a very wide cut. And that gives you like a little pocket for your bass and your voice to sit, so it's not colliding with the bass of the instrumental. And we're gonna do the same thing for the high end of our verse. We're gonna find where it shines. I already know that it's not gonna be the high mids, because that's where we cut earlier, because that's where we had some harsh frequencies. So a little bit above there where there's more air. Then we're gonna take out, about a decibel, and that should give us a nice little pocket. I'm just doing this to show you guys how it sounds. So about 1 decibel should be good right there. That'll leave you enough, a little bit more space for your vocals to shine. And with that, we have our track. So at this point, I'll go through and I'll make minor adjustments after listening to it. I do recommend every hour giving yourself 10-15 minutes to rest, let your ears, bounce back. After sitting in the mixing room for so long, your ears they become fatigued and you can't hear properly. And that's just a fact. So you may think something sounds totally dope in the moment, and then you come back to it the next day and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? That happens to everybody. So give yourself a break when you're doing this, work for an hour, 2 hours, and then give yourself 10-15 minutes to rest, and then come back to it. And you'd be surprised how your perspective can change in that 10 or 15 minutes. So now let's go through and let's listen to it one more time to see where we're at with everything and see how it's all sounding.
Rising from the underground, like we back from the dead. We keep it grimy over here, we don't keep track of the trends, cause we ain't trying to be relevant, we don't have to pretend. I'll beat your ass in public, I don't need a mask on my friends.
Already I can see that there's too much reverb on the first part, so I'm gonna bring that down at the end of this. Probably bring down a couple of the other reverb peaks.
You gotta pay your dues and do what you feel, but if you skip a step and copy everyone you do to lose your appeal, don't go running off your mouth if you're new to the field. This ain't no video game, they finna shoot you for real. What would you do for a deal? Would you be waging your soul? Would you be willing to give up all of your creative control? Acting like a fucking plant, slowly waiting to grow. If that's the situation, you'll never be able to blow.
Okay, so most of it sounds good. My only concern is that the reverb and the delay are too loud, so I'm gonna pull those down, listen to it a couple more times, come back to it tomorrow and make some more minor adjustments. But for the most part, this is the process. There's no right or wrong way to do anything. There's rules of thumb, but that's about it. So be innovative, take everything I said with a giant grain of salt, and figure out what works for you. All right, a little bit of last minute advice. Take extra care during the recording process. Remember, you can't polish a piece of shit, so make sure that your recording sounds as good as it can possibly sound. Do it in segments if you have to. Do it over and over and over again until it's just spot on. Remember, if it sounds good when it's recorded raw, it's only going to sound better when it's mixed properly. So make sure you take the extra time and care while you're recording your verses. If you do that, you'll be good. Alright, keep it ill, motherfuckers.